Welcome on into the podcast. I'm Brett.
I'm Dorian.
And this is our Thursday throwback. We're talking about Avatar Season 2, Book 2, Earth.
2.
For those of you who have not been a part of this YouTube channel before, we would really appreciate it if you guys subscribed and liked. And then also, if you haven't seen our Book 1 review and kind of walk through, we set up the world, we set up a bunch of stuff, talk about the martial arts that are involved in this. We're going to briefly mention that in this video, but if you want all that stuff, make sure you check out our first video. Links in the description below.
Yep. And also, some of our other Thursday throwbacks that we do, we go over all the Skywalker Saga Star Wars movies, the Dark Knight trilogy, and the Bourne trilogy, the good movies. But yeah, so I mean, if any of that interests you, go check it out.
Yeah, and let us know what you guys think of these videos in the comments below. We'll ask you guys a question too. Like, we want to know, what's your favorite part of Season 2 of the Avatar? Comment below. Let us know. We love to have conversation with our fans. So, but yeah, make sure you subscribe, like, and share with your friends. We would greatly appreciate that. So let's get right into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do this thing.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
So talking about Book 2, first impressions, like when you first saw Book 2 in its entirety. Which, how old were you at the time? 16?
Yeah, 16.
So
17. Yeah, so depending on when it aired.
So what were your impressions on how everything went down?
Yeah, so there is spoilers in this, by the way. So obviously to walk through the whole season. So if you haven't watched Season 2 yet, I highly recommend you do that before we really get into this.
Yep, so if you're watching for the first time on Netflix right now, do yourself a favor. Bookmark the video, come back, we'll understand.
Yeah, we get it. So first impressions for me, this season is very well written. This season is a lot tighter, I think, than Season 1 as far as the writing goes.
I would agree with that, yeah.
But I remember I didn't think through, like, now being an adult and looking back at it, obviously there's a lot I missed, even as a 16, 17-year-old.
Sure.
But this season has a huge cliffhanger.
Oh, yeah, big
which
time.
I loved and hated at the time, especially because, I mean, back then, we had to wait. I think it ended in December. It didn't pick back up till, like, spring.
Yeah.
Which, to me, felt like forever.
No, it does, yeah.
I don't remember this season as much as Season 1, because I think I just had more time for Season 1.
Yeah. Well, and also, Season 1, it's your first introduction to the world. All the world building really does happen in Season 1.
A lot of it does, yeah.
And so, yeah, it's going to leave a bigger impression than it does in Book 2.
And I just remember it being a little bit slower season, but not in a bad way.
Yeah, I mean, in some areas, you could definitely make that argument. Like, definitely like, I would say like maybe the last quarter of the season where it's like all bossing say stuff.
Yeah.
It does like, all kind of blend together, kind of, does like drag its feet, maybe just a little bit.
Just a little, yeah.
But I mean, by the end, it's like, okay, popping off.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I mean, first impressions for me, I mean, first time I watched, Avatar: The Last Airbender, I kind of binge watched it. So I really didn't have that hiatus of like, an anticipation from that cliffhanger. But I just remember... So I can't really speak to like my first impressions just because, again, I just binge watched the whole thing and just enjoyed it. But I would just say from my impressions from the rewatch, compared to like, Book 1, I felt like Book 1, it does do a lot more standalone type episodes. I mean, it still contributes to the overall story, but I felt like this one, like there's usually something significant that happens like almost every episode or something that really is driving
less filler,
something that's really actually pushing the story forward to actually do something here.
Which I think is a tribute just to the writing getting better.
Yeah.
And the tone shifts. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Definitely some tone shifts. So let's talk about like how this book is different from the first one.
So off the bat, the animation's a lot better.
Yeah, I do.
Like a big leap, I think, from especially movement wise, like when you see action scenes.
Yeah.
They figured that out in season 2 for sure.
Yeah, no, I definitely think the quality in animation really holds up in this season. I think like after season 1, Nickelodeon's like, all right, here's a blank check for your animation budget here.
Pretty much.
Go nuts.
Yeah, I think the animation's better. The storyline's really, really good.
Yeah, a lot more focused, I feel like, in this season, where it's like, you'll have like these offshoots of storylines saying like, okay, here we're going to go chill out with these guys for this episode, and then we may never ever see these people again, maybe not, all that stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot darker than I remember. Kind of reworking through this, a lot of themes that are something a kid or even teenagers not going to understand, like when it gets into politics of bossing, say.
Oh yeah, it's probably going to fly right over their head here.
Yeah, so it was just interesting to kind of be like, oh man, like,
yeah,
this is very meta,
It is, yeah, no, very meta. And then also, yeah, I mean, it is a darker season, not as dark as
season 3.
Yeah, but I felt like we saw a lot more Zuko in this season. At least, like, maybe that's just because, like, I felt like you see him more as like a developing character, as somebody who is just like a villain per se, or like,
yeah, because he's not in this season. Like, the villain is Azula and Long Feng.
Yeah, Long Feng. Yeah.
So, or is it Feng Long? I don't know.
I have
it written down. We'll see it later.
It's one of those.
I think it's Long Feng.
One of those un-American names here.
Anyway, so yeah, you have these other two characters that are way more evil than Zuko, but you do get a lot of Zuko in this.
Yeah. Well, especially these characters, like these villains that we'll be talking about in a little bit, definitely an upgrade from General Zhao.
Yeah, Zhao.
Like, I mean, Zhao was just kind of like the military man who was just too ambitious for his own good. Like, these guys kind of take it up a notch.
Yeah, and I think they all take it up a notch. Like, I just remember the vast difference in bending that Aang and Katara can do from season 1.
Yeah.
Like, Katara's pretty much a master at this point. Like,
she is, yeah.
So bending not all that hard, apparently.
Yeah.
I don't know. No, but she makes huge, like, and it's a testament to their character development as well. Like, they're growing as characters and as benders to kind of at the same time. So that's kind of cool to watch.
Yeah, no, it is.
What about you?
Yeah, just for like how the season differs.
Yeah, what do you think?
I mean, no, I pretty much agree with all your points here. I mean, yeah, I would say animation is smoother, animation is better, storyline's more focused, and yeah, like every episode I feel like does contribute to the overarching story in some way, shape, or form. And yeah, darker season, and yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump into the world a little bit. Okay, so we've talked about in our previous video of book 1. Like I said, if you haven't, check that out. Link in the description. Where we talk about all the different bending styles, kind of their martial arts influence, and the different nations, and kind of who they are reminiscent of when it comes to, like, actual cultures in our world.
Yep.
So we're not going to go too deep into that, but I did want to talk about a couple things in this, because there is some slight variations of bending that I think are important to kind of look at.
Yeah, kind of like subcategories of pre-existing bending.
Exactly. They're different sects within the bending itself. So like sub-bending. Well, let's call it sub-bending, I guess. So, and then we're going to look at one of the characters' specific style of bending, because it is different and a lot rarer than most styles of earthbending.
Right, yeah.
But there's a episode called The Swamp.
Yeah.
Where we're introduced to these benders who are actually bending plants.
Right, yeah, they're water benders, but they bend the water that's
inside the plants.
And I mean, this is just like one of the things that really speaks to the level of like I guess like creativity in the shows. Like, they're using like things like in real world science, essentially, or like real world knowledge of real world application here.
Yeah.
And they're applying it to a kids show that I feel like most kids shows would be like, oh yeah, we don't care about that. We're just gonna like just write it however we want to, basically here.
Yeah. So, and it's even interesting because they're even a different nationality almost. It looks like these swamp benders than most of the water benders that we've already introduced to.
Well, yeah, they're hicks for one.
They're kind of hickish, but I'm just talking about like how they were designed even.
Yeah, no.
So more like bayou looking. Which I like. They wear like straw hats and stuff. They're cruising on boats, fishing and stuff.
They kind of remind me of like South American.
Yeah, kind of like Peru area. Yeah,
like Peru, Mayan type of.
Mayan's good. Yeah, I was getting that vibe too.
Yeah.
Now I'm not entirely sure I didn't see any information of what nationality they based the swamp guys off of. I'm sure there's something out there, but
something.
Couldn't really find it. But anyway, so I mean, these are characters that come back later too.
They do, yeah.
But they're able to make like really cool stuff. Like that one guy made like a mech basically out of plants, and he's fighting.
Yeah, makes a vine kaiju or something like that.
Yeah, a vine monster that wraps around him, and he's inside of it, and he's like kind of he's punching and stuff.
And he's also like reassembling his mech.
Yeah, when it gets cut and stuff. Yeah.
So
yeah, we have the swamp benders. We also have a subgenre of earth bending. So we have sand bending.
Yeah, which they don't really talk a whole lot about that.
No.
Here, and one of the things that I found like really interesting in this season is like Toph is like a, as we'll go on later to discuss in this episode, is like Toph is a master earthbender, like pretty much right out the gate as soon as we get introduced to her, pretty much. But like she doesn't know how to like work with like sand, So I kind of found that like to be kind of an interesting aspect of this whole deal.
So sand bending is very similar to that of air or water bending.
Yeah.
They're able to manipulate the sand into like whatever they want, like little tornadoes that propel these. What do you want to call them? Like
their
boats.
Yeah, sand boats or whatever, like sand skimmers or something along those lines. Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a subgenre of bending, but it's a rare style too, to where someone who's rooted in more traditional kind of earth bending, it's not going to be an easy transition for them.
Well, right, because I mean, just the movements, like you said, a lot more smoother. Whereas, as far as we know from like previous earth bending styles or previous earth benders, very hard rooted style.
Right.
Yep.
This is definitely softer. There's
more flowing,
and it's a different way they use it. It's kind of to trap their enemies, almost like you see the sand go up around people's legs and they can't move. But we don't get to see them very much, so it's kind of this rare
kind of a
thing,
one and done type of thing for the sand benders for the most part. Yeah.
But I mean, I can see it being a really powerful style as well if we get to see more of it.
I mean,
Gara.
Yeah, that you took the words right out of my mouth. Yep.
We're introduced to a new style of bending called metal bending.
Yep.
But not every earth bender can do this because of how small trace amounts of rock are in refined metals.
Yeah.
And Toph, one of the characters in the show, is someone who figures out a way to manipulate metal and bend it.
Yeah, which I mean, I think like in Korra, they even like kind of take that even a step further and explain it that basically like if it's purified metal, like, like very pure where it doesn't have like any, chunks of like dirt or earth or rock left in it, then you're not going to be able to bend it. But because like you have like these, just unpurified metal that you are able to really just use the rocks in there to like essentially manipulate the metal that's encasing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and Toph is the first person to do this. Obviously, later on, she opens a whole school dedicated to metal bending, and eventually police force.
Yep.
So, but anyway, let's talk about Toph's earth bending. So Toph's earth bending is based on a more obscure form of kung fu, right? Because earthbending itself is largely based on Hungar, which is a hard style of kung fu. Hard style meaning
like you're doing more like what
punching, deep stances.
Yeah, like what like most people like I think associate like karate with,
right?
Like horse stances, stomping, just more direct movements as opposed to like flowing around,
which would be a soft style of martial arts.
Yeah.
because it's more flowy, parrying, stuff like that.
Exactly, yeah.
So this is still a hard style, I guess, but it's based on a more obscure kung fu known as Southern Praying Mantis style. No relation to Northern Praying Mantis style, if you know anything about martial arts. And here's kind of I pulled this from Wikipedia, and I looked at other sources too, and they're all kind of saying the same thing. The Sifu who oversaw the movement and all this stuff on Avatar actually brought in a guy who is a master of Southern Praying Mantis style, because it is a rare form even in our world. Like it's not something that's readily practiced or
interesting.
So heavy emphasis on close range fighting.
Yeah.
So you want to get into your opponent as tight and as quick as you can, and basically, immobilize them. But
which I mean, you see that like a lot with Toph.
Oh, totally. So the system is known for its short power methods. So really quick punches, really quick kicks, small, like not these broad things you're used to seeing with typical Hungar.
Yeah.
And so very quick, precise. And then in the application part, the emphasis on hand-to-hand and arm techniques, and a limited use of low kicks.
Yeah.
So very much, arm-oriented, lots of punching.
Yeah.
And let's see what else. It's more akin to street fighting. So I think whoever developed this probably took some other type of kung fu and just developed it for straight up street fighting, like or self defense. If you want to go that route.
Sure.
So the hands are the most readily available for attack and defense of the upper body, and protect by employing ruthless techniques designed to inflict serious injury. The legs are moved quickly into a range through footwork to protect and defend the body. Kicks are kept low, like I said earlier. And so it's all about balance too. And so you can see Toph, even the way she holds her hands are the way they would in the specific style of martial arts. And it's a lot of...
Well, even like foot movements as well, how she kind of usually does like a half circle.
Yeah, it's very quick and precise.
Yeah.
Very calculated. And so that's her style, which is unique to her. There's no one else on the show that I know of that does Southern Praying Mantis style.
Yeah.
I don't know if her daughter later on and Korra does. I can't remember, but we'll get into that whenever we review Korra.
Yeah.
Something I did want to talk about that's not necessarily a bending style, but something that this season heavily emphasizes is the Avatar state.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Avatar state is...
Yeah, matter of fact, first episode of the season actually
called the Avatar state.
Yeah, it goes over like the kind of the details of the Avatar state. Yeah.
Right, and we get more and more information as the season unfolds, because the Avatar state is going to be something crucial for Aang to master in order to defeat the Fire Nation.
Yeah,
because it's how the Avatar is as powerful as they are, is because of the Avatar state.
Which, one of the things I noticed on the rewatch is Roku addresses it as a defense mechanism.
He what? Sorry.
He uses it. He calls it a defensive.
Mechanism. It's a defense mechanism in case you're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
You're able to tap into all the knowledge that previous avatars have had.
Yeah.
So you're all like, if let's say you had an avatar who was an incredible earthbender. I mean, that's their natural bending.
Yeah. You would be able to tap into.
You'd be able to tap into that, something like Kyoshi or the fire bending of Roku.
Well, yeah, because I mean, when Aang initially left the air temple to run away, like you see in book 1, he didn't know any water bending, but then when he got lost in the storm and then fell into the ocean, he used the Avatar state, froze himself and Appa, even though he didn't even know any water bending.
It was like a second nature type of thing where his life was in danger and he kicked it on. Mm-hmm. Now he's gonna go through this journey of figuring out how to tap into that, where it's not just a defense mechanism, but he can use it at will instead of it just kicking in like he did in the episode where he froze himself.
Yeah, exactly.
So within that, the Avatar state, like we talked before, has 7 chakras or 7 chakras you have to unlock within you, starting at the base of your spine, starting with Earth.
Yeah.
And Earth kind of represents and deals with survival, and it's blocked by fear. Yeah.
And it's all, basically they're all about like specific, character qualities or character fundamentals here, so like things that, might weigh on your mind, like psychologically, like,
Right.
fear, attachment,
Yeah, I'm gonna go through all of them too.
Shame. Yeah.
But yeah, so with the Earth chakra that he has to unlock, and we see this way later in the season with Guru Patik, but he has to be able to let go of the fear he has in order to unlock this chakra. He has to unlock all of them in order to be able to tap into the avatar state at will.
Yep.
The next would be the water chakra, which has to do with pleasure and is blocked by guilt. So, and this I think was big for Aang to be able to let go of this, because he does feel guilty for being gone for 100 years.
Yeah, no, I mean, we had like an entire episode dedicated to that, like in book 1 here.
Yeah. And then we have the fire chakra, which represents willpower and is blocked by shame, located in the stomach.
It was, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was when he tried firebending for the first time,
and he
burned
burned
Katara. Yeah.
Then we have the air chakra, which has to do with love and is blocked by grief, and that just, the death of all his friends and family,
right?
All that stuff. So then it's the sound chakra, which is about truth and is blocked by lies.
Mm-hmm.
The light chakra, which is about insight and blocked by illusion. The thought chakra, which is the pure cosmic energy.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's blocked by earthly attachments, and we'll get to that later, but that's what you have to, give up, is those earthly attachments in order to go into this avatar state and have control over it. So,
yeah. So why don't we get into like the characters here, and specifically, let's talk about, at least starting out, the characters that we were introduced in book 1, and like, how have they changed through this book 2, basically this season?
Yeah, start with the avatar himself.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta. Obviously becomes an earthbender.
Yep.
He actually grows more in his combat ability. This season, I think, definitely highlights his attachment to Appa.
Oh yeah, big time.
Because there's that one part where I think it's the episode The Chase, where they're being chased by Azula and her gang,
yep.
and then
and
basically the reason why is because Appa is shedding, and they're following his trail of like fur that he's shedding, and then Toph points that out, and Aang gets like super defensive, like just like that, doesn't even even though that was what was happening, he's still like basically tells Toph off, and
I think. He's still that fun-loving kid.
Oh, he still is.
But he has grown up. He's a bit more serious now, especially after his, run-ins with the Fire Nation from book 1, season 1.
Well,
he goes aggro when he loses something. I'm not going to talk about what that is right now. We'll talk about it later. But you see him go off in this season.
No, there's a point where I thought, like, if somebody didn't intervene, he would have killed a certain group of people here.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
So I just think he's more conflicted this season.
A little bit. Most definitely towards the end, when he is trying to learn master the avatar state, and even
earthbending though.
Even earthbending, and even like just how to deal with something like, not letting the world just kind of like get to you, like you become jaded, you start caring less about things, or what have you, because there's even like an episode that's kind of revolving around that idea, where he's becoming more jaded because he lost Appa here or whatnot. But
spoilers.
He almost completely lets go of his feelings for Katara by the end of the season to like master the avatar state.
He has
for that earthly attachment that we were talking about. And so I think you see him as he's like in book 1, he was wrestling with the idea of responsibility as to like, should I be the avatar? Like, what happens if I'm not? Blah blah blah. In this episode, in this season, you see him like actually be more committed to the idea of like doing what it takes here, because first episode of the season is him actually trying to like get the avatar state down, that way he could actually fight the Fire Lord here.
Right.
And then by the end of it, it's him like actually willing to make a sacrifice so he can protect the people that he cares about here.
Yeah.
So, but you got anything else for Aang or?
Not really.
All right.
We'll talk about more when it comes to the episodes breakdown. Yeah.
But let's talk about Zuko, because here's the thing. Aang and Zuko, they are the two main characters of this show here.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's very apparent this season too that Zuko is the yin to yang of Aang.
Exactly. Yeah.
Did you?
Yep. But no, I mean, different contexts that we're seeing Zuko in, just because now he is a man on the run. Like, basically, he is
in hiding.
He's in hiding. He's branded an outlaw by the Fire Nation. So basically, the one place that he was, completely committed to, like, serving to bring back his honor, now wants nothing to do with him. Wants to hunt him down and either imprison him or dispose of him.
Right. I would say that if I had to think of a word for Zuko this season, is metamorphosis.
Yeah.
He goes through so much change.
He does, yes.
Not only in hairstyle.
Yeah, most definitely in hairstyle.
But because you see him go from, he cuts off his ponytail at the beginning of, was it the beginning of this season or the end of last season? I think it was the beginning of this season.
Beginning of this one, yeah.
He shaves his head basically bald, and then by the end of it, it's kind of shaggy. So you can see a lot of time has passed, but
yeah,
he has the most growth again out of any character, I feel like, this season.
Most definitely, but it's also
huge setup for the future.
Yeah, moments of growth. Moments of growth, but regression as well here. But
I don't know if I would call it regression.
I mean,
he's just dealing with his demons.
Right.
It's not a linear path to growth. Isn't a linear path.
It's not. But in terms of like where he ends like the season at here, he's definitely kind of regressing back into like how he used to think or how he used to act here, even though like deep down something has changed in him. We just don't get to see that quite. Really
you don't get to see it played out for a while.
Yeah. But one of the things that I think they really did a good job in terms of like really selling the redemption arc of like Zuko, or potential redemption arc, no spoilers for people who haven't seen season 3 yet, but is he actually gets to see up close what the Fire Nation has done to the rest of the world here. So like there's it's early on in this season, but he has that part where he's like staying with that family.
Yeah.
That's taking care of him.
Yeah, we'll talk about it
and all that. But yeah, it's a great one. And he also gets to learn to redirect lightning, so he kind of grows more as a bender himself. So yeah, I think. I
mean, you see him use some crazy stuff you didn't see him use before, like the fire whips.
Yeah,
exactly.
And
stuff like that, and it just kind of goes off in a lot of the fight scenes.
Yeah. And just the other thing I want to point out is like, so he's unable to learn lightning bending, which
because of his inner turmoil,
right? Because like he has like that. He has like that inner turmoil, not sure of like how to deal with certain things, wrestling with things inside himself. So yeah,
and I mean he gets a lot of backstory this season too, with flashbacks and stuff like that. We learn a lot more about his mom and their relationship.
Lot more fleshed out. Yes.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about Katara and Sokka a little bit. I mean, there's not a lot to say about Katara. I feel like she's a very stagnant character when it comes to like her growth as a person. She's growing as a waterbender, for sure. She's still motherly to Team Avatar. That's her role, kind of.
I would say, like, in this...
next season, she grows a lot.
Yeah, no, next season, you get a lot more growth. I mean, even in book 1, I feel like she did grow.
She did.
Just not like Zuko or Aang growth here. But I do feel like in this season, she does evolve more into the mom role of the group.
Big time.
Especially when you have like Toph.
Yeah, different style of teacher. She doesn't really agree with the way she does things, and so.
And then, she tends to be the mature one out of the group most of the time now. It's
almost too mature.
Almost, yeah. Where she's kind of like the
Which Toph and her butt heads a lot because of that.
Yep, they do.
So Sokka, I think he's grown a lot this season too.
Yeah, I mean, he's by and large, I mean, he's still Sokka.
He's still comedic effect.
Yeah, he's still comedic effect.
Which, in this season, what has one of my favorite lines done by him, and I'll talk about that a little bit later.
Okay, but I think like he is carrying more baggage, and you see that with like him not being able to protect Yue from from the last season and all that. And so,
definitely.
I mean, and you know, it's not like a constant thing where
He quickly forgets.
Yeah, no,
once Suki shows up.
Yeah,
Kyoshi Warriors.
Yeah. I mean, granted, like him and Yue weren't dating very long. No. So I mean, it's kind of like, you know,
what I do like about Sokka is there's a continuing, because he's pretty pessimistic season 1. He's pretty jaded.
And also very skeptical, because he was even talking about like the Avatar not even existing at some points here, or like not even understanding, like, you know, being able to communicate with like the previous Avatars, or like Avatar states and all of that stuff.
He's made like this declaration almost, and you continually hear him talk about it, of him trying to be more positive this season. And he does try to be. Like that is something he was working on really hard.
Yeah.
We're really going to see him shine in a few episodes, I think. Especially something the episode The Library, where you get to see kind of his desire to really lead the charge against the Fire Nation.
Well, right, because like the beginning of that episode, I mean, we'll get into probably more specifics later, but I think it's something that probably flies under the radar on that episode is everybody else wanted to do like a vacation where they were just kind of messing around doing their own thing. He was like saying like, hey, for my vacation, I want to go to this mystical library that has secrets on the Fire Nation. That way we can actually, I don't know, do our job.
Yeah, exactly. And he's the one that discovers the Day of Black Sun.
Yep.
So yeah, we get to see that in that episode. But, you know, I like Sokka's arc a lot. I think it's a pretty cool arc.
Yeah.
And not even just this one, but the future season 3 and all that.
Yeah.
And now let's talk about your favorite character, Iroh.
Yeah, Iroh. So I mean, not a ton for Iroh, because I mean Iroh is pretty much the same by and large, the same guy in terms of like character wise, but you do learn that there's more to him than you previously thought here, because you thought he was just like
kind of insane, like a little kooky, a little off.
Kind of a little kooky, a little awful, but like not very committed to like the idea of like forwarding like the Fire Nation's conquest. And you kind of get a little bit more of an idea why, because he's part of the White Lotus, and he has been for this entire time here. So it kind of alludes to the idea that maybe Iroh has like some allegiances somewhere else, not just to the Fire Nation.
Oh, and you see that play out at the end of the season, 100%.
Oh, you most certainly do. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. But so for Iroh, still a fortune cookie, you know, for the most part.
Still a fortune cookie.
He's more. You see a lot more irritated Iroh in this season, especially when it comes to Zuko.
Well, you also see him like get like straight up confrontational here, where he like,
he's like, you don't think things through.
Yeah,
you need to figure this out.
Yeah, where I mean,
or you're never gonna learn.
Well, because like the majority of his interaction with Zuko is him trying to like lighten the mood, be positive, kind of, you know, give Zuko like an idea of like, hey man, you're letting life pass you by. You need to enjoy the little things, type of thing. And, you know, but like there are specific parts in this season. It's like this is a do or die situation. You need to make this choice right now, and you better make the right choice, essentially.
Yeah. He's a businessman.
Oh yeah, no.
He opens a tea shop.
He opens a tea shop. Yeah. I mean, just shows that he's actually good at making tea, to the point where it's just like, you know, we didn't really get to see like, okay, what's the level of Iroh's tea making skills in like the
pretty legit
first book. I mean, yeah, he's able to get the best tea restaurant in Ba Sing Se, here, you know?
And we get to see more of just kind of what a skilled bender he is. We get to see more of the Dragon of the West.
Yep.
If you want to call him that.
Yep.
And even that scene where he goes, you want to know why they call me the Dragon of the West? And he sips that tea in and just breathes fire out.
Yep.
And I can't wait for season 3 when he just becomes a beast.
Yeah.
Anyway, how about that blind bandit?
That blind bandit. So yeah, well, let's get into some of the new characters from the season. So Toph. So snotty rich kid. At least that's how you pretty much are introduced.
I would
to
say
her.
spunky.
I mean, definitely spunky. Yeah, but I mean, she's definitely snotty.
I would say she's snotty, but she's not a snotty rich kid. She is rich, but she's not like. When I hear snotty rich kid, it's like, oh, I'm better than you because I'm rich. She doesn't think that way at all.
No, that is true.
Yeah.
But Master Earthbender, I mean...
Oh, she's a prodigy, big time.
Big time, yeah. You know, invents a new style of bending, like we just mentioned. And she has, like, a very, very strong need and desire for independence here.
Yeah.
Just because pretty much her whole life, she's just been putting on this facade of just being this helpless blind girl.
Yeah.
And her parents have treated her that way. That's why she's, doing earthbending in secret. And, once as, they do find out that she is who she actually is, a master earthbender, they still don't give her the independence or give her the respect that she's
deserves.
due. Yeah. So, I mean, and learns, she's very abrasive.
Yeah.
I mean, she doesn't pull any punches.
Just like earthbending, though.
Yeah, she does.
She very much represents that.
She's not afraid to tell you how things are or like what she thinks of you, all this other stuff here. And, she learns...
She's direct.
Yeah, she learns to be a little less of a brat along the way.
Yeah.
I mean, she kind of learns to actually become something bigger than herself here, essentially. And, like, understand more of, like, an idea of, like, what it means to like be a part of a team.
Totally.
Yeah.
If I had a word to describe Toph, it'd be spunk.
Yeah. No, I mean that is accurate.
Yeah.
Very accurate.
Yeah. Earthbending prodigy, like you said, world's first metal bender.
Yep.
She's blind, obviously. For those of you who don't know, she's blind.
Yep.
And there's a lot of comedy that even revolves around that through the season. Like when they're flying on Appa and they're like, "Oh, hey, look!" And then she's like,
"Yeah." When
they're like, "Where?" And she's like, "That's what it's gonna sound like when we find it." And she kind of waves her hand in front of her eyes. She's like, because she's blind.
Well, yeah, no, because she does have some zingers with the blind jokes. Like there's that one point where like I think they were tunneling underground for something, and then Sokka's like, "Oh, I can't see anything." It's like, and Toph's like, "Oh, really? What a nightmare here."
Yeah. She has a similar sense to Daredevil, like where she can actually see stuff through like feel, like sonar almost.
Yeah, exactly.
She feels vibrations. That's her sight. She can see through her feet, is what she says.
Yeah.
She starts off as a WWE superstar.
Yeah, absolutely.
Earth Rumble 6 is where we find her in the episode The Blind Bandit.
Yep.
Where she's fighting characters that are very similar, like Macho Man Randy Savage slash
The Boulder
The Rock.
is The Rock, yeah.
The Rock mixed with Macho Man Randy Savage, yeah. Yeah, like you said, wants to be super independent because she grew up as this helpless blind girl and had that facade, and she's definitely not that.
Yeah.
And a little fun fact, she was not originally supposed to be Aang's earthbending teacher.
Who was?
The Boulder.
The Boulder was?
A character like the Boulder, at least.
Okay.
When they were writing season 2, they had a character that was similar to the Boulder. It was a male, and then they switched it to a female who was blind. So just a little fun tidbit that was kind of the route they were going until they decided to switch it up.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad they did.
Yeah, no, I think it serves the story better, and I think it also develops the world better as well.
Yeah.
So, all right. So next up on the list, pretty much the main villain of this season, Azula.
Yep.
Yeah. So cold and calculated is basically if I had to really describe her in like one sentence, that'd be it here for the most part.
I would say insane.
I mean,
or crazy. She has zero empathy. She doesn't understand
zero
that.
empathy, but in terms of like really like seeing like that psychotic side bubble to the surface.
Psychotic is a word. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good word.
I feel like that doesn't happen until like the next season, because right now like she's just being portrayed as like just straight up evil here.
Yeah,
for the most
pretty
part.
much. Pretty much.
Very devious, always knows how to like manipulate something in order to like get the best situation or the best understanding or the best advantage on something. Always striving for perfection, which is something that comes back to really just mess with her head later on here. And loves to torment Zuko.
And her friends.
And her friends, yeah.
Because you get a lot of flashbacks when they're little, and so her and then she has two friends that come into the fold later.
Yeah.
Tylee and May.
Yeah.
And they have been around each other for a long time.
Well, yeah. Well, but Zuko especially, just because Zuko, I think, had the one thing that she always wanted that she could never get, which was like her mother's approval here.
Right.
Whereas Zuko, took more after his mom, whereas like Azula took more after her dad. Yeah. But
yeah.
Very definition of a raging busy here. Like
she's cray.
Yeah.
She's prodigy firebender crazy. She has the gusto to be a truly even more terrifying Fire Lord than Ozai.
Very much so. Yes.
So.
I mean, like if we got to the point where like it was like, well, there's that great part where they're talking about like Iroh and Zuko were trying to figure out like what to do on the run. They're like, we could go to Ba Sing Se, but they'll probably kill us because if they find out who we are.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Or we could get captured by Azula.
Like
Ba Sing Se it is.
Yep.
Here.
Yeah. They're gonna take their chances there.
Yeah.
And I guess real quick we could talk about Tylee and May.
Yeah.
Tylee's kind of the fun-loving, carefree circus performer, and she has a really cool style of martial arts where she can block people's bending by hitting their pressure points.
Yeah, basically chi blocking here for the most part, and very
which that comes up in later seasons.
It does, yes.
Well, not later continuation season. So Korra.
Yeah, but no, it's a no, and she's very. She's very like, kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Just, it seems like very oblivious.
She's oblivious, yeah. She might not even understand why she's doing what she's doing, but she's loyal, very loyal to Azula.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you have Mai, who's very quiet. I wrote down the April Ludgate of the group.
Which is kind of funny because we do have Aubrey Plaza playing a
different character.
In
season 2 of Korra, I think.
But no, she is 100%. Like that is an accurate description of that.
And she likes to throw knives at people. She has the hots for Zuko.
Yeah, which interesting thing because I was watching some videos about like kind of some of the comics that take place after it. And
me too. Yeah,
it goes into like Maya in terms of like how she got so good at like throwing like bladed weapons and knives and stuff. It's basically because she was just bored like in her room like most days, so she just started throwing things at the wall. Got pretty good at it after 5 million
repetition.
Times. Yeah,
that's what it is.
And then the rest was history.
Yeah. So I got a couple more side characters to talk about, only because they continue to make an impact in the show.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole series. One being Boomy. I mean, he was supposed to. They were really banking on Boomy to be his earthbending teacher,
right?
And he doesn't want to. At least we get that vibe. He says he can't. Basically, you need to find someone.
Yeah, which I have some.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, well.
Then we got Jet, who comes back. Won't say anything more about that, but he's back in the fold.
Yep.
He's changed a little, maybe.
I mean, yeah, I'd say so.
We got Suki, the love interest of Sokka.
Yep.
We have Guru Patik, which. Personal friend of Monk Gyatso, so he's 100 and probably at least 120 years old.
At least, yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's that banana and onion pudding.
I guess he's pretty ripped up too.
Yeah.
Hakoda, which is Katara and Sokka's dad, we're finally introduced to him.
Yep.
And then I mean that's about it. I think for like the notable side characters.
I mean, other than like maybe Fei Long or Long Feng, however.
Yeah, the villain, the side villain kind of it. Well, and we could talk about that more as the episodes go on.
Yeah.
But he's not anything more than just a jerk who wants to run a control freak essentially.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, he's not only controlling the city physically, but he's also controlling the information.
Totally.
And how like the message of certain things or what things are talked about.
A lot of propagated stuff.
Very much so, yes.
So real quick, I want to talk about the voice actor who plays Azula.
Yeah.
Grey Griffin, huge. You might have noticed her voice. Long list of voice acting. She's Catwoman in the Arkham games. She's Daphne in Scooby-Doo. She's played Captain Marvel. She plays Katana in Mortal Kombat. List is gigantic. Great voice actress, but and just cool performance from her. I really like Azula's I like the voice acting that comes with Azula, I guess.
Yeah, no, I definitely she did a banger job with Azula for sure.
All right, let's talk about them notable episodes.
Yeah.
We got to start with episode 1.
I mean,
titled The Avatar State.
Yeah.
So we get the setup for the season really with this episode, the foreshadowing, everything.
Yeah.
A huge part of the season is discovering more about the Avatar State.
Correct. Yes.
That's the only reason I mentioned that.
Yeah. I mean, this is a great way to start off the season. I mean, waste no time kicking things
Get right
off.
into it.
And also very important episode for Iroh and Zuko, because this is where they find out that they are essentially not banished anymore, but they are considered criminals.
They're fugitives.
They're fugitives by the Fire Nation. And so, you also get the introduction to Azula, and also you get to see lightning bending, I think, for the first time, like actual, like somebody using it and not just redirecting it.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Straight up creating it.
Yep.
So then we're going to, at least I have episode 2 on there, Cave of Two Lovers, only because we get to learn about the first Earthbenders.
We do. And then I got to say, Sokka in this episode is the most relatable he has been.
I think he's supposed to be the audience going like, come on, man.
Yeah. Like
there's like these hippies and stuff like that in this episode that are just
just making some pretty significant gaps in logic.
There isn't any.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's just like Sokka by and large is a pretty pragmatic, logical guy here. So just like having him deal with that, like that was great. And then but one of the significant things about this episode is Zuko basically goes and hangs out with this Earth Kingdom family because Iroh is like essentially sick here, and so they take care of him. They patch him up, nurture him back to health and all that. And so they have dinner with him, and he gets to actually learn a lot more about what the Fire Nation has done to this family. Like, and I mean, it also ends with him like still showing that he is still not a good guy.
Selfish, yeah.
He steals like their
ostrich horse at
the end. And then, and essentially the episode ends with Omashu being under siege, because the reason why they were going through these tunnels that were created by the badger moles was because they needed to get to Omashu here so they can go and learn earthbending from Bumi, basically.
Yeah, it's pretty cool that, I mean, just like a lot of martial arts are rooted in animal movements. Even the bending are rooted in animal movements. So you have the air bison, the sky bison that are air bending. You have the dragons that are fire bending. Yep. The badger moles that are earth bending, and then water bending. I don't know what it is. The water spirits. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
The moon, I guess, because they learn from the moon. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
the push and pull of the moon.
Yep. So,
but basically, we get to see kind of more. We get that love story with Oma and Shu, and that's where they came together to form Omashu, the city.
Right.
But yeah, you get to learn like the badger moles were the first benders, and you're like, oh, that's kind of interesting information.
Yeah,
like,
no, it is.
Kind of.
Yeah, it builds more lore and all that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think to the episode Whale and Korra when we meet the first Avatar, though. If that contradicts it at all, I can't remember.
Oh.
Anyway, we'll come to that when we come to that. But episode 3, Return to Omashu.
Yeah, so you get like a lot of things going on in this episode. I mean, you get the intro to Ty Lee.
Yep.
You also get the intro to Mai.
Mm-hmm.
And then essentially like the setup for this episode is Bumi surrendered Omashu to the Fire Nation when they were at their gates, and now Bumi's like nowhere to be seen, and an underground resistance is forming in his stead here. Yeah,
and initially the reason they're going to Omashu is because they want Bumi to be Aang's earthbending teacher.
Right, and which, here's the thing, I got some issues with that. So I know that they talked about like there's supposed to be an order to like, how the Avatar is supposed to learn the elements, and depending on like which nation or which element you are born with here. Mm-hmm. That being said, I think all of that goes out the window when you have the one episode with him learning the firebending in book 1, because even though that is the episode where it's stated that there's supposed to be an order to like the actual like learning of the elements here. Mm-hmm. Avatar Roku showed up to Zhang Zhang and told him, "You will teach the Avatar firebending here." So how does that work here? Like what? Like if there's supposed to be a natural order to this, why would Roku show up and tell him that? And then why wouldn't he learn earthbending from Boomy the first go around? That seems like that would have been like probably a really good opportunity to get an earthbending teacher right then and there.
I mean, I think they were just kind of following. I mean, there was the story.
Yeah,
it's called water. It's not earthbending.
No, I understand that here. I just think it's just for like a series that is so well written like Avatar. I think this is like just one of the instances where the writing just was not completely there here, to be honest.
I don't know about that. I think that the reason Aang didn't learn firebending either was because there was still stuff he had to learn as a person in order to be able to control it. And I think it was just, Roku obviously knew if Aang were to learn firebending, it was going to turn out well and he'd move on. There's a reason there's an order that they learn it in. But and I think this was his biggest challenge as far as learning bending.
Oh no, for
because
sure.
Because it's the opposite, like fire and water opposites, earth and air opposites.
Sure.
And we see that played out through this whole season. We get the Twinkle Toes references.
Yep, exactly.
But anyway.
Well, yeah, and then even in Korra, it's like airbending's what's tough for her just because she has to be more fluid, like, less headstrong about things here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, well, and then also like in this episode, it's like they have Boomy like explain like the conditions of his surrender, about like talking about different kinds of jinn and stuff like that, about like there's a neutral jinn where you just do absolutely nothing and you wait, and so you kind of get introduced to the idea of like what Aang needs to look for in an earthbending teacher. I still think it's like kind of like a garbage reason they explain like, oh yeah, this is the reason why I surrendered was because of this Eastern philosophy that most kids or Western audiences would not understand here.
Well, I don't even think it's that. I think he was kind of talking about there's a time to fight and there's a time to retreat and there's a time to just be.
Yeah.
And he was waiting for the opportunity to, because I mean, what's he going to do against the Fire Nation?
I mean,
he's not going to do anything.
I mean, and that's the thing is like, I think that is essentially what they were trying to go with. I just don't think it was explained well.
No, I get it.
So,
yeah. And Boomy says, you need to find a teacher who waits and listens.
Yeah.
And he does. He finds Toph.
Yeah. Also, Maya's like in this episode, like essentially they accidentally kidnapped Mai's little brother. And she's actually kind of a beezy when it comes to like saving her brother. She's like, yeah, sure. I guess you can still keep them hostage when they're working out the
deal. Yeah.
The negotiation for Boomy for the brother and all that. And then also I like how they basically manufacture the coronavirus to get like all the citizens out of Omashu here.
Yeah. What was it? Like they had like those little
like octopus squids or something like that. That would like leave
spots on you.
Yeah, spots on you. Yeah, but no Zuko this episode at all.
Yeah. Yep. And then we got episode 4, the swamp.
Yeah.
Just because talking about the swamp was very spiritual in the sense of there would be visions you would have while you're in this swamp. We learned about the swamp style of water bending. First look at Toph in Aang's vision.
Yep. First look at Toph. You also get to see Katara's mother, like kind of like
in a vision. Yeah.
In a vision. You also get to see Yue again, kind of seeing what kind of baggage like Katara and Sokka are carrying and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then Avatar. Well, also by the end of it, we get Zuko coming back as the Blue Spirit, which one of the things I learned just over the weekend here is like the Blue Spirit mask apparently was came from
Three Ninjas.
No, it actually came from Zuko's mom, because she used to be a part of like a theater like thing or whatever.
She was an actress.
She was an actress, and they had like a bunch of different masks, and so she kept one of those masks as a souvenir from her old life, basically. But yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah,
nice. So you saying episode 5?
Yeah, Avatar Day.
Go for it.
So this is kind of like a nice a pretty cool episode, just because it gives you more backstory on Kyoshi and like in terms of what she did, but it also shows that not everybody's a big fan of the Avatar. You know, you have like this whole village that revered essentially this dictator that was trying to conquer, these areas here. And Kyoshi basically put a stop to it and created Kyoshi Island, literally earth-bended a landmass and used airbending to push it away to form Kyoshi Island.
Somehow she did that.
Yeah. So
good for her. Good for her.
Also, you got like that part where like Aang is bonding with like the inmates because he's in jail and stuff like that, which is great because I mean he's just a bald guy with tattoos just like everybody else in jail here. It's
true.
But
I love how they get all emotional on it.
Yep. And then Appa basically becomes the fast travel.
You're quick traveling at that point.
Yeah, because like in this episode, they literally go to like all these different places, like Sokka and Katara, to like do some investigating here. So they go to Kyoshi Island. They go to some other place. I forget exactly.
How long did it take him to get to the northern tribe?
It took him like all season. Like
I know, but how long was it supposed to be? Was it like a couple weeks or months?
I don't know, but it's like okay.
Comment below if you know.
Yeah.
And then episode 6.
Yeah,
Blind Bandit.
Blind Bandit. So intro to Toph. We basically get this underground earthbending tournament that essentially is WWE.
Yeah.
I mean, got crazy characters, basically hyping themselves up and all that. And this one guy, the boulder, you think he's going to be like, the man. He's going to be the champion. He's going to be essentially Aang's earthbending teacher. Turns out he's not, because he got bested by a blind little 12-year-old here. And by the way, if they do not cast The Rock as the boulder in the live action Netflix series that is supposed to come out someday,
right,
there will be hell to pay. That's all I gotta say.
I mean, I don't think they will, but he's too big of an actor. Maybe Hakoda or something.
But
season 2 and 3.
Yeah, but no, you also get to see like just kind of a nice, good introduction to Toph, and like basically she has her parents who are overbearing, who are overprotective. She wants independence, and so that spurs her to like run away with Team Avatar, teach Aang earthbending, all that good stuff. Yeah, so
I love Sokka in this episode. I think he has a lot of good like funny lines.
Well, yeah, he's getting like super into the program.
Oh, he's all about it. Yeah, it's awesome. You're like, okay, he would be the guy that's into WWE.
He would be.
Yeah, so we're introduced to Blind Bandit. We see how she sees the kind of that sonar where it kind of goes gray and there's like these sound waves that go out.
Right.
And you kind of see how she sees, and she ends up fighting Aang in the ring because they're like, hey, cash prize for anyone who beats the Blind Bandit. And he's like, I'll fight her.
Yeah.
Because he wants to talk to her, basically. And she nicknames him Twinkle Toes because it's hard for her to pick up where he's at because he's an earthbender. And so he's kind of floating.
Well, airbender.
Or sorry, earthbender, yeah. Airbender. He's all the benders. He's the Avatar.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's an airbender, so he kind of floats. Like, he's very light on his feet.
Well, he's not making any like vibrations on the ground here, or any like
or if there are, they're slight.
Yeah, like very slight. So I mean, she's not able to pick him up as she would like anybody else who's like rooted to the ground here.
Right. Excuse me. Like a lot of earthbenders are. She's used to fighting earthbenders.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, there's a little back and forth between Toph and Aang, and one of my favorite scenes is earlier than this. They're trying to figure out where this Earth Rumble 6 is.
Yeah.
And Katara's had a run-in with these boys. She froze him to get the information. She comes back to him and goes, I've got my eyes on you. And Sokka goes, Water Tribe, when he's leaving.
Yep.
Probably the best line in all of Avatar. If you guys want to go back and watch that, like, Sokka's just representing Water Tribe, basically. Like,
Yep, like a gang.
yeah, pretty much. It's hilarious.
It is pretty funny.
Yeah, and then we just get to see how she lives a dual life. She's a rich, very, very wealthy, if not the most wealthiest, one of the most wealthiest families in the Earth Kingdom.
Yep.
And she has attendants all the time with her, and Master Yu is her teacher, who's the earthbending school in town, and he's like, "Yep, just keeping her with basic forms and technique, and that's it."
I really like how they made Master Yu like your typical like karate instructor. That is like, oh yeah, you gotta pay this much and you'll get these lessons and blah 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 and all that. It's just like, okay.
You're like, come on now. That's why it didn't work for Aang, because he was enrolled at the school for a second. He got like a free lesson.
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah, he was in the kids class.
Yep. He's a kid.
Yeah, but he was like with 5-year-olds.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, that's because most of the guys who probably were earthbending are a lot older and more advanced.
Yeah, probably. So.
Or if they're the same age, they're more advanced. They're not beginners.
Yeah.
I love the dinner table conversation that they have because Aang and the gang come over, like, they kind of invite themselves over, like, hey, I'm the Avatar, we need to talk.
Yeah. And he's like basically dropping hints about
Toph being a master earthbender, and her parents are like, she doesn't know anything. She's helpless. She's blind. She doesn't know that stuff.
Yeah, they're completely oblivious to it. Or,
And then eventually she steps in, basically, when her and Aang get captured by all the wrestlers, basically think that they were in on it together, and that Aang's prize money they just took because she knew him or something like that, basically.
They thought that Toph intentionally threw the match between Aang and Toph here.
So Shin Fu, who was like the runner of the WWE, like the announcer guy, and the Boulder capture them.
Yep.
And then they won't let Aang go after letting Toph go, so they give him the money back, and then they let Toph go back to her family.
But they want the
money, big money for the Avatars. They're going to send them to the Fire Nation, which causes Katara to go, hey, Toph, we need your help. They're not going to let him go.
Yep.
And she takes on all of them.
Yep.
And she kicks their butts.
She's like, I beat y'all before. I'll just do it again.
Yeah.
Yep.
But, yeah, that's it for that episode, I think.
Yeah, so moving on to, like, probably arguably, like, maybe the best episode of the season here. Mm-hmm. Zuko Alone here.
Yeah.
So... very Western theme, and you really get to see a lot more Zuko backstory in this episode here. You get to see flashbacks between him and his mom, kind of like his mom being the positive influence in his life.
Super defining episode dedicated to the further development of Zuko. Western samurai feel for sure.
Yeah.
The hungry traveler in the desert who finally catches a break.
Yeah,
but not before he runs into trouble and has to save a kid who's egging these soldiers.
Yeah.
And so
also gets to stay with an
earthbending farmer family.
Earthbending farmer family that's come upon hard times and stuff like that. Very much like the old Western Shane, basically like gunslinger who like basically hangs out with the family for a little bit.
Yeah, and it kind of humanizes them usually.
Very much so, yeah.
So what happened basically was the soldiers are just bullies. They're enforcers, and they take from people. They're just jerks, straight up. So he helps the boy. The boy invites him. He's like, hey, I'll help feed your ostrich, and you can get something to eat at my house. Basically, he takes him to his parents. Mm-hmm. His name's Lee. And then we get flashbacks of young Zuko prompted at this time. We find out how insane Azula was even at a young age.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Like she asked questions like, if Uncle Iroh dies, Dad would be Fire Lord, right?
Yeah.
And she's kind of excited about it, and it's just like, what? Like, what kind of? She's, I don't know, 6 or 7 maybe,
roughly,
maybe maybe a little older.
Yeah.
And we see a lot more of their mom. We see how close her and Zuko are.
Yeah.
And then we get a little bit of Ty Lee and Mai in there. Mm-hmm. And then we get to see Zuko as kind of a teacher. Like we see him, the little boy kind of steals his swords and is out in the fields going crazy like any little boy would.
Yeah.
Just swinging them around. He's like, you're doing it wrong. Let me teach you.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's kind of helping on the farm to kind of earn his keep because he doesn't want a handout basically.
Yeah.
We get to see King Azulong, I guess.
Yeah,
Ozai and Iroh's dad.
Yeah, we do, and we also get to see the events that essentially trigger Zuko's mom to disappear, essentially, because like what Azulon was going to do, because Ozai was going to his dad saying, "Hey, Iroh just lost his son. He failed at bossing Say. He doesn't have an heir.
Yeah, revoke his birthright.
He's not in the position to become Fire Lord. Make me Fire Lord. I have 2 kids here. We can pass on the line, blah, blah, blah." And then Azulon's like furious about it. It says like, maybe I should have you give up your son. That way, what your brother has lost here.
Mm-hmm.
So, and, essentially, I mean, we'll probably talk about it in our book 3 throwback, but
yeah,
but basically this is what triggers, Zuko's mom to essentially disappear.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I think this is a really cool story, and this obviously furthers Zuko's redemption arc that he's supposedly on, where the bullies, like the soldiers,
yeah.
They're not really soldiers, just jerks that hang out and protect the village.
Yeah.
They go back to the family, basically, and say, "Hey, your son's been captured," and they're kind of joking about it in like a really cruel way, which pisses off their dad, and he's like, "I'm gonna go find him," basically, and so he leaves, and as soon as they leave, I think they come back and they take Lee, the little boy, he's like, who pulled a knife on him, and the knife was given to him by Zuko, who was given to by Iroh.
Yep.
It sounds confusing, but if you watch the episode, you'll understand a little bit better.
Yeah.
And he pulls a knife on him, so they're like, "Oh, if he's old enough to try to fight us, he's old enough to fight the Fire Nation." So they're going to take him too, and they have him like tied up in town. And basically, Zuko finds this out by talking to the mom.
Yeah.
And is like, "I'll get your son back." And he goes and basically owns all of them.
Yep.
But exposes himself
as a firebender here. So ultimately, like the family and the entire town that he kind of just spent time with all turn on him.
They despise him after. Yeah, it's kind of a good but sad episode, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's kind of like really highlighting the idea of like how hard it is to like actually redeem yourself, because it's like you might be trying to do the right thing, but you also have things that will like bring up your past, or people who will not look over like what you are doing now, but what you did here.
Yeah, and I think it also helps him to not run from who he is, but embrace it for the good or the bad.
Yep.
Because he kind of declares who he is when he starts firebending.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
no, he does.
What other episodes we got? I got episode 8 only because of the Toph and Iroh connection.
Yeah.
So episode 8, The Chase.
Yep. Well, and I think this is where you really see like Aang be protective of Appa, like I mentioned earlier here. But yeah, I mean, Toph meets Iroh. You really see more of like Toph, her need for independence. You get some dope action scenes in this, and then you also get essentially everybody doing a brief team up against Azula at the end here, and then she manages to get away. But there's that part where like you almost think that, oh, okay, is Team Avatar actually going to join forces with Zuko and Iroh here and all that? But
that's kind of teased throughout the whole season.
Yeah, exactly.
Then we got episode 9, Bitter Work.
Yeah.
This is where Aang starts with Earthbend.
Yeah, very significant episode here. Basically, not only does Aang learn to Earthbend, but Iroh teaches Zuko how to redirect lightning, and kind of breaks down the fundamentals of lightning bending. Basically tells them like, you can't lightning bend because you're conflicted inside here. So because you can't do that, I'll teach you how to redirect the lightning here. And yeah,
which is taken from his observation of waterbenders.
Of waterbenders, yeah. And you also get to see Iroh in terms of like how he has such more of an open mind than the Fire Nation does. He's like saying like, all these other kingdoms and nations, they have something to contribute. You don't just go and like stick to like, a very dogmatic view of how one thing works or how, things work. You have to learn from like all the other sources of like how they do things in order to like be really great at what you can do.
Right.
Here. Yeah.
Which, that's a life lesson anyone can learn.
It's a life lesson, but I mean, ultimately, Aang is struggling with, in this episode, Aang is struggling with earthbending because it's, the opposite element to the one that he,
to air,
basically. So he has, and also to his personality. So
he's not direct. He's kind of like, he's a monk. So he's more, I don't know.
More passive, I guess, in a certain manner. He doesn't really like rush into conflict in terms of like being confrontational and stuff. But
Katara does not approve of Toph's style of teaching because Toph's very direct, just like earthbending needs to be.
Yep.
Really hard on him because she wants him to understand, like, hey, here's the kind of gusto you got to have to be an earthbender. Here's what it means to actually be an earthbender. And neither Aang or Katara really understood that, and so it was totally needed. Where at the end of the episode, you find her like get mad, do this, be a man about, man up. Come on.
She's egging him on basically in order for him to like actually
earthbend,
be confrontational, stand up for himself.
Yeah, stand your ground is what she kept saying.
Essentially, yeah, because I mean, ultimately, because they describe it as, with air and water, they're very fluid, very moldable here. You have to be essentially unbreakable in order to bend something hard as earth here, because it's harder, it's sturdier, it's more durable. You have to be stubborn like it here.
Yeah, totally.
So, but the last thing I want to say about this episode is you get this great part at the end of the episode where Zuko wants Iroh to shoot lightning at him so he can practice the redirect.
He's like, "Are you crazy?"
Yeah, it's like, "Yeah,
I'm gonna shoot you."
Exactly. It's like essentially it's the equivalent of saying like, "Okay, I learned how to jump out of the way of getting shot at. Now take a shot at me." He's like, "No, I'm not gonna do that." But you have him go up to this mountaintop where there's this thunderstorm happening and lightning and all that.
Yeah.
And he's basically calling out to the storm, basically telling him come on, hit me,
Yeah, you've done it many times before, metaphorically.
Well, yeah, basically he's just at that point he's
pissed
just
off and
he's crying out to the universe, basically saying you've already done it. Why not one more time here? I'm just basically speaking to how much bad luck he's had his whole life, basically. Yeah. So
no, it's a solid episode, I think.
Yeah, no, very solid episode. And then we get to the next episode, the library.
Yeah, so this is, I think, a really important episode to understand for not only this season but for next season as well.
Yeah.
We get introduced to this spiritual owl being who's all knowing.
Yeah.
So it's God.
Wan Shi Tong, which is dude, that guy's dope, man. I just really like the design on him. And
it's pretty cool. But this is really where you see Sokka, asking the hard questions and trying to figure out how to beat the Fire Nation, and he does.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in the same episode, Appa is stolen by the Sandbenders, which causes tension between Aang and Toph because he blames Toph when Toph was saving all their lives.
Yeah.
By holding up this, because they're basically in this underground tower.
It's underground.
It's a huge building that's been buried in sand, and she's holding it up with her earthbending.
Well, yeah, she's holding the entrance up that way it doesn't get completely caved in. And
but she couldn't do that and fight these Sandbenders
or stop the Sandbenders from stealing Appa.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the conflict we end up in, which leads us in episode 11, where Aang loses his crap.
In this episode, we do get kind of an introduction to the White Lotus here, and
a tease of it.
Yeah, they play that game of Pai Sho where they basically form this lotus, I think it is, or something like that.
Well, it's a specific strategy.
Yeah, specific strategy that him and this guy at the desert encampment that Team Avatar went to earlier.
It's not even really a game. It's a secret language that they're doing in order to communicate and go back to this other room to make sure he's actually White Lotus.
It absolutely is. And so essentially, I mean, you're starting to realize at this point that, Iroh has connections that are outside the Fire Nation. He has something that he's a part of that we don't quite know what it is about just quite yet, but that he has been a part of this for a while and a long time. And even like in like book 1, they kind of alluded to it a little bit where he was telling Zuko, I lost my White Lotus piece for Pai Sho. We need to get it. It's the most important piece here, you know?
Yeah, it was foreshadowing, yeah.
Just very subtle,
very big, yeah.
Very subtle nudging. But yeah, I mean, the big part about this episode in particular is really about, you know, Aang losing Appa. And legitimately, I believe that he would have killed the Sandbenders if Qatar didn't intervene, because he goes full on Avatar state when he finds the Sandbenders and just gets completely crazy. And also shout out to Sokka getting high off of cactus juice.
That's a funny scene.
That is a funny scene.
I know that the actor Jack DeSena, who plays Sokka, is constantly asked to recite the cactus juice lines.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's the next episode you got?
The next one is Serpent's Pass. This is where we get Suki returning. And so you also get to see Aang just get jaded, you know, where he's like kind of becoming a little bit nihilistic, saying like nothing matters. I can't care about this thing anymore here. You also get to see Sokka kind of, you know, be confronted with like the guilt of failing Yue. And he's, you know, he has like this new relationship that might be blooming with Suki potentially.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. But you also get the return of Jet and him trying to be less of a douchebag this time around here. You
That's
know?
fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then episode after that is the drill.
Oh yeah, that was a sweet fight.
Yeah, great action episode. Really cool, like, you know, just use of like bending here. You know, they talk about like, you know, you would think like just from a pure story standpoint, it'd be like, yeah, Toph would be in the drill helping them, but Toph is like, I can't see in there. Why would I go in there? And it's like, oh yeah, that's a really good point. And so she's just gonna do things on the outside, and then you have like Katara basically. One of the really cool things that I liked from this episode is like she breaks one of the pipes, so there's like a lot of steam coming up. So it basically acts as a smoke screen, but then she like turns it to ice around the guy. Just like that.
Just highlighting how much she's grown in that as well.
Well, just how like clever the use of like superpowers in this show for children is, you know. But yeah, no, just great action episode. You know, Azula, Mai, and Ty Lee all have like, you know, all show up and they're all trying to, you know, essentially stop Team Avatar from stopping the drill that's drilling into the wall of Ba Sing Se. No, good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you got for other notable episodes here?
Episode 14, City Walls and Secrets.
Okay, yeah.
So this is where we finally get into kind of the innards of Ba Sing Se, because there's multiple walls and you're kind of introduced to how the city even functions. It's a caste system that's separated by even more walls.
Yep.
So you get like the refugees, and then you have like your kind of middle class, and then your upper class. And so yeah, it's interesting. And this episode, you get Jet starts getting suspicious of Zuko and Iroh and who they actually are.
Yeah.
Not that he's Zuko, but that they're firebenders, and he hates firebenders.
Well, yeah. I mean, no.
All because they saw him reheat a tea, potentially.
Yeah, which he hates them so much that like he was willing to wipe out an entire village of innocent people in the last season about it.
Pretty much. We're kind of introduced to the Dai Li a little bit more, like, and what they're about.
Gotta say, dopest people in the Earth Kingdom, maybe in Avatar in general, like just got some sweet threads, like sweet
the rock gloves that they shoot out in their hands.
The rock gloves, they're just climbing on walls like Spider-Man.
They're basically spec ops for the Earth Kingdom.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, they're really cool.
Absolutely.
They keep everyone safe in the city is a quote. From Judy.
Yeah.
Who's like kind of the I don't know. There's a lot you find out about how messed up the Earth Kingdom is, especially Ba Sing Se right now.
Which is also a very interesting like kind of twist, just because when as far as we understood, like just going into the Earth Kingdom,
Everything was normal, it's prosperous.
Well, everything was normal. Everything was prosperous. They were the good guys. They were going to help Team Avatar take down the Fire Nation and all that. And they were like one of the last, like Ba Sing Se was like one of the last refugees that hasn't been like taken over by the Fire Nation. So it was, you would think that, okay, yeah, they can like lend military support, all this stuff here,
Yeah, so it seems like nobody in the town either don't know about the war that's been going on for 100 years, or they're too afraid to talk about it.
Right.
Because the Dai Li want to keep it hush-hush and kind of control the king.
Yeah, and also brainwashing here. So
yeah, they're brainwashing people like the Judys. We find out more about that later. We get the Jet versus Lee fight. So it's Jet versus Zuko, but he's Lee at this point.
The Jet Lee fight?
The Jet Lee fight. And then we get Judy. She's always talking about don't do this or don't do that or you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
Like, she's basically just sent to watch Team Avatar.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just keep tabs on her. But yeah, and you also get to learn in this episode, like if somebody does come in with knowledge about the war and they won't shut up about it.
They hypnotize them.
Yeah, they brainwash you, make you forget about certain things, just like they did with Jet, basically.
Yeah, there's a specific line. The king. Hold on. It's the king has invited you to Lake Laogai, and then it triggers something in your head, and you go, "I'd be honored to receive his invitation."
Basically,
it's different for everyone because Jet's is different than because you find out he's actually brainwashed later than Judy.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So in this, sorry, I skipped ahead a little. We got episode 16. That's the next one I have, which is Appa's Lost Days.
Yeah.
Because Appa's been gone this entire time. So for like handful of episodes, he's not in the picture at all.
Yeah.
So we actually get to see his perspective, which is pretty cool. Yeah. I like that.
No,
and even flashbacks to when he was little. He was like a young bison in his first interaction with Aang.
Yeah, exactly. Just kind of like explaining the history to him, and then also just like the connection that him and Aang have essentially here, just because he's not like just trapped in this one place the entire time. He's like
he's all over the place.
He escapes, and then he's trying to find Aang as quickly as he possibly can. He goes back to like places that he thought he would be at, and he's not. So
he's kind of in the background in a lot of scenes that had already happened in episodes. So like when Aang turns Avatar state and you see this big old sand cloud, Appa sees it, but he's like pinned down basically.
Yeah, exactly.
He ends up with the Kyoshi Warriors for a little bit, and then he goes to one of the air temples and meets Guru Patik.
Yep.
Which is pretty cool because in 2 more episodes, the Guru is really the one that trains Aang in how to master the Avatar state.
Yeah, no, he has a significant role to play later on here.
So with all the Lake Laogai talk, let's talk about that episode.
Yeah, so
episode 17, Lake Laogai.
Yeah, I mean, Iroh is offered a tea shop here just because he's the best tea maker in the entire city, basically.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah.
I always thought, I was like, why? That guy's got to have a cut. This is Shark Tank for...
For sure.
But, yeah. This episode, Zuko actually realizes the Avatar's in Ba Sing Se.
Yep.
He didn't know this entire time. Judy disappears and reappears.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's this episode or a previous one where actually Judy gets replaced with a different lady who's also Judy.
Yeah, no, it's a different episode, I'm pretty sure. But the original Judy, she comes back in this episode here. And
basically, you can't do anything troublesome because they couldn't post pictures of Appa. She didn't like that.
Yep.
The big reveal is that whole trigger for the hypnosis that we get for the brainwashing. Jet shows up saying he's changed, this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
We learn Toph as a human lie detector can sense, because when you lie, your body has there's a change in the rhythm of your heartbeat or whatever, and she can sense that.
Yeah.
One
thing I do want to mention, like Appa's Last Days, it's revealed at the end that the head of the Dai Li actually captured Appa, and that's why.
Yeah, he was captured.
Yeah.
And he gets freed by someone that you would not suspect.
Right, but I mean that also triggers like why they're going to Lake Laogai in the first place.
Yep. They get some information basically that Appa could be there.
Yep.
after being set up because Jet was brainwashed. And then they're like Cloud Guy's like, that's it. We got to go there.
Mm-hmm.
And so he figures out that they got to go there. Zuko is a straight up ninja.
Yeah.
When he's fighting the Dai Li as the Blue Spirit.
Absolutely.
Such a sick scene.
Yeah.
And then we get the reveal from the guy with the nose piercing. I can't remember. They call it like the Rough Riders or something like that in season 1. The Firebender guy with each person has a different. He was the one that killed Jet's parents.
Yeah.
So we get that backstory for Jet. So Toph can also sense secret passageways. They're able to find the actual secret entrance to Lake Laogai.
Mm-hmm.
We get to see a whole room of Judy's being brainwashed.
Yep.
And conditioned to like a certain way of thinking.
Yep. To basically serve like the role of Judy here, essentially, and like just keeping
the peace,
keeping information
tabs.
Quiet on the war and like anything else that the Dai Li would not want people of Ba Sing Se or the king to know about.
Yeah, and so then we kind of get this bait and switch where we think Team Avatar shows up to free Appa.
Yeah,
but it's the Blue Spirit, Zuko.
Yeah, and it's at first it's like him gonna actually use Appa for his advantage to like actually capture the Avatar, but then that's when Iroh
asks him the question,
shows up, and basically it's the come to Jesus moment. That,
who are you gonna be?
Yeah,
what kind of person? And he frees him.
Yeah.
So we see that, and then Team Avatar gets Appa back. Appa saves the day by smashing some Dai Li agents, and they're able to kind of get away from that situation. And so, and apparently the Blue Spirit dies in this episode as well.
Yep.
Zuko doesn't die, but he kind of gives up the persona of the Blue Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah, no, and then next episode they actually get an audience with the Earth King.
Yeah.
And
finally.
Basically
they forced themselves in there though.
They did force themselves in there.
With extreme prejudice.
They did, yes. And essentially, long story short, they end up convincing the Earth King that, the Dai Li have basically been running the kingdom for the last however long here, and you've been a pawn. You've been a pawn, essentially. So, and there's a war going on. We need your help. And the Dai Li pretty crafty. They cover their tracks.
Oh,
pretty
big
well.
time.
But the one thing that they couldn't do was the drill, and that's what ended up doing Long Fei Long, whatever his name is. That's what ended up doing him in.
It's Long Feng.
Feng, okay.
Yeah. So and through that, the king actually believes Team Avatar and Long Feng's arrested. He even was holding letters, like the letter that Guru put on Appa's horn.
Oh, yeah.
Supposed letter from Toph's family, and then a letter from Hakoda, Katara, and Sokka's dad.
Yep.
So they're even controlling the information coming in and out when it comes to letters and stuff like that. So just very restrictive. And then on this episode, Aang almost tells Katara how he feels about her. Yeah. He's like, well, and then she ends up, before he leaves, because they kind of split up for a little bit, because he's going to go train with the Guru. Sokka's going to go meet with his dad. Katara's going to stay and kind of help out the king.
The and then Toph is going to go
meet with her parents.
Well, her mom specifically.
Yeah.
Here, but that turns out to be kind of a farce.
Yeah. So But weirdly enough, so Toph gets captured by the two dudes from the Blind Bandit episode.
Mm-hmm.
The Kyoshi Warriors show up, which is actually Azula and Maya and Ty Lee.
Ty Lee, from when they took on Suki and her Kyoshi Warriors from
in the Appa's Lost Day episode.
Appa's Lost Days episode, yep.
Yeah, so they're actually infiltrating, because they couldn't penetrate the walls. They're infiltrating from within, which ends up working.
Yeah, no, it does.
And we see that in the next episode.
Yeah, in the next episode, I mean, we talked about like a lot of earlier on, like in the world building and stuff like that.
Yeah, the Guru and the Chakras.
The Guru and the Chakras ends up, having Aang work through every single one except for the final one, which is about the earthly attachment here. And he can't do it just because he's like, I can't give up Katara, or I can't give up, like, the people I care about here, and Azula ends up controlling the Dai Li.
Yep.
And, takes over.
Stages a coup.
Yep, stages a coup. And,
Sokka meets his dad again.
Yeah, Sokka meets his dad.
Not meets him, but, meets back up with him.
Right. And but basically, like, Aang has, like, this moment that's very reminiscent from Empire Strikes Back when Luke's training on Dagobah with Yoda.
Yeah, very much so. Doesn't listen to the wise counsel.
Exactly. Has a vision of Katara being in trouble, so...
He's like, I gotta go.
He's like, I gotta get out of here. Like, my
friends are in trouble.
My friends are in trouble. Blah blah blah. And he's like, you haven't completed your training, and like this is not gonna work for you if you don't complete your training. And then
then takes off, picks up Sokka.
Yep.
And Toph's actually captured this point. She's in one of those metal kind of little cages, and she actually discovers she can metal bend.
Yeah.
And breaks out
through identifying like the pieces of rock in the unpurified metal here. So, but and then Katara gets captured after Azula takes over the place, and then we get to the season finale, which is Crossroads of Destiny here.
Yeah, which is a good title for this.
Yeah, no, very much so. A lot of things happen in this one here.
Yeah, so you get Azula, who you find out's working with Long Feng to overthrow the government and to take over Ba Sing Se from within. I think Iroh's power is exhibited more in this episode.
Oh yeah, you get to see why he's called the Dragon of the West.
Yep. Zuko challenges Azula to an Agni Kai, but she declines. She's like, nah, I don't wanna.
Yeah.
And he kind of stops running from who he is at this point.
Yeah.
I think it's been hinted at throughout it.
Yeah.
And he's really trying to decide what he wants to embrace. Does he want to embrace this new Zuko, or is he going to backslide into who he was before?
Yep.
Pretty dope action in this episode.
No, very dope action.
Then we get the old friend of Toph shows up to help them out, which is Iroh from the episode.
Yeah, and then he even Iroh and Aang have like that talk about the whole guru attachment thing and all that because Iroh does end up showing up after they have their confrontation with Azula and the Dai Li, saying like, hey, I need your help, my nephew, he's been captured.
Yep.
And then also your friend's been captured, so
let's work together.
We can mutually benefit from this. But him and Iroh kind of bond over just this whole idea of attachment. And basically Iroh pretty much says it's not a great idea to let things that are good go essentially here. But it's kind of interesting because if I did not know any better, from this show, if I didn't already have the knowledge I had going into the show previously when I watched it, I would have assumed Iroh was going to be the fire bending teacher for Aang here.
I mean, it kind of feels that way.
Yeah,
we won't spoil that for you guys.
Yeah.
But basically at this point, Iroh's talking to Aang and Katara. They break, Zuko and Katara out. There's a whole little scuffle between them. Nothing crazy. Azula shows up.
Well, and there's even that moment where Katara and Zuko are having.
We get a Zutara glimpse.
What could have been?
What could have been between Zuko and Katara?
But also just them actually coming to an understanding with each other, just because
both lost their moms to the Fire Nation.
Both lost their moms to the Fire Nation. Both of them Zuko basically apologizes for everything he's done so far here, but only just essentially backslide here to how he.
Well, yeah. So let's set that up a little. Sure. So basically, Azula shows up.
Yep.
And kind of makes Zuko an offer he can't refuse, and she's kind of seducing him back to her side.
Yep.
And you don't really know which way it's going to go. So now we have Azula versus Aang and Katara with the Dai Li thrown in there.
Yep.
And you've seen how much Aang and Katara have grown because they're actually in step with Azula at this point.
They are, yes.
And you think Azula's maybe starting to slip a little. And her words were enough. Zuko shows up and he's kind of looking at Azula, looking at Aang and them, looking at Azula, looking at Aang.
Okay, what's he?
And then he attacks Team Avatar and he goes back. That's kind of the big little twist at the end there. That's like you think he's gonna actually be on Team Avatar.
Yeah, and actually like make a definitive statement as to like put his foot down, say, yes, I am gonna continue this path that I've already started on. But he's like, no, I'm actually gonna backtrack a little bit and then take this path here.
Yeah, and so, which is unfortunate, but basically this puts Aang in a position where he's like, all right, I got to finish my training. He goes into like a little catacomb. He earthbends some crystals around him and sits, meditates, and is able to unlock that last chakra.
Yeah. And you think...
And you're like, stuff is about to go down.
Yeah, you think this is going to be like essentially a repeat of like book 1 finale.
Yeah,
where
and then you're like, oh, or is it?
Yeah.
Because as soon as he like floats up, it's this big, like the score is like...
Yeah, it's
big and epic.
It's like ramping up, mounting and stuff like that.
And then
yeah.
all of a sudden, this lightning, like you see like lightning kind of change. Yeah, and then you see him he falls basically. And Azula's there, shot him with lightning.
Sniper shot him in the back with lightning here, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, which I mean, also, I don't know if we mentioned or not, like earlier in this episode, but talking about the Avatar state, basically like, this is... it does talk a lot about the Avatar state, but it also mentions that you are at your most vulnerable at the Avatar state, just because if you die in the Avatar state, like all the
cycle stops.
The cycle stops. There are no more avatars, basically.
Yep. And yeah, he dies basically, and then Katara still has that water from the northern.
The spirit water.
Yeah, and is able to revive him basically.
Yep.
But they're in this underground cave, and she's like, okay, what am I gonna do? Like the Dai are here, Azula's here, Aang's down for the count, I'm the only one here, and then out of nowhere, Iroh shows up and is like, get out of here, and he goes full on traitor, I guess, of the Fire Nation's like, I'm basically cutting ties completely with Fire Nation, gives himself up as a prisoner. Zuko decides to return to the Fire Nation with Azula. It's very interesting because, this is how the season ends. Our heroes did not win.
Yeah, no, very Empire Strikes Back ending.
100%, yeah. But yeah, that's the vibe. This season is the Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
If you will.
Yeah.
So many things taken from that they do a really good job of making it their own.
Yeah. No, for certain, yes. Yeah.
All right, favorite parts of the season.
All right, so... Let me pull it up here just a second here. But, we've kind of mentioned and talked about it, earlier about our favorite parts or like what we liked about this season. But, I feel like there is less drag. I felt like the writing is, a lot tighter. It's pushing the story forward constantly.
Yeah.
It expands the lore that's already built upon with like, the Avatar state, the chakras, the different like subcategories of bending. Dai Li agents are the coolest people around, not even a competition. And, there's a very good balance between action and story in this season. I think, you really are pushing the story forward, but you're still making sure that you're giving the people what you want or what they want here.
Yeah. I completely forgot this. This goes back to the Lake Lao guy episode because for me, a favorite part of this season is Jet kind of gets redeemed a little bit.
He does, yeah.
But unfortunately, in the Lake Lao guy episode, Long Feng deals a killing blow essentially to Jet. And so he dies off screen. He doesn't die on screen. He's just... Katara can't heal him, so they said this is not good at all.
Yeah, which a little spoiler for like book 3, like the play episode that they have in there where they're like going to the play that reenacts all their adventures up to this point.
Oh yeah,
like they have a point where they're talking about Jet and him dying. He's like, will I die or will I not die? I guess we'll make it vague here or something like that. So kind of alluding to the fact that
it is vague.
Did he actually die?
But he doesn't come back.
He does not. No,
so.
And he's not even. I don't think he's even like comes back in like any of like the expanded like comics that came out afterwards.
Not that I know of.
Not even in Korra, yeah. But Ba Sing Se, pretty cool city. Basically this is this season takes what was good from season 1 expands upon it, makes it better here. I would say that's the best way I could describe this season here and just what I like about it.
Yeah, I would say I like the Jet stuff. I like the Zuko stuff, his continued arc. Toph, I think, brings a really cool element to Team Avatar.
She does, yeah.
And then they didn't win, which I both like and don't like because of that huge cliffhanger. But I do like it as a story. Like it's a good. It's nice when they're
facing an obstacle or something.
They have to overcome it, yeah.
Right, because I mean, if at the end of the day, it's like, your heroes win every single time here. It's like,
yeah.
It makes it,
it makes season 3 that much better.
It does. I mean, it's kind of like, obviously, like, Empire Strikes Back. And like,
it's set up, yeah.
Set up for, like, Return of the Jedi. It's even like Avengers Infinity War to Endgame here.
Right.
Endgame makes it. Endgame would not be nearly as significant or as impactful if
they didn't take those L's.
Yeah,
in Infinity War.
Exactly. Yeah, those hard L's.
Yeah. So for me, my overall kind of thoughts of it, I guess, were that it was a really good season. Much different tone from book 1, more grounded, less silly, lots of serious topics about politics, the coups, the deception of a king, an entire city being controlled by this group of people, basically.
Yeah. No, and absolutely, and yeah, just a lot. Yeah, definitely a lot more like grown up and a lot more like deeper themes and subject to like put in a kids show here. I mean, granted, kids aren't really going to like understand it here, but it's like, mostly there for the adults that are watching, saying like, yeah, here, we know you're watching, we'll give you something.
Yeah. I think that's kind of all I have for, my thoughts and just kind of what I thought about the season. But
all right, well, let's get into like on the flip side of the coin, or the yin to the yang, as it's appropriate for the show.
The Zuko to the Aang.
The Zuko to the Aang.
Yeah.
Least favorite parts here.
For me, I think it was just like the slowness kind of in the middle to like late part of the season.
Like the bossing says.
Yeah, it was just more of the political stuff. So I think there just wasn't like a whole bunch of action. I still enjoyed it, but it was probably my least favorite part, and that they killed Jet, because I thought that I understand like arc.
You thought he could have had more potential.
Well, especially because Smellerby and Longshot and all of them come back in season 3 to help out the gang.
Yeah, they do.
So.
Well, no, I think it's actually Pipsqueak and.
I think they all do for the that or maybe they don't, but yeah, Pipsqueak for sure does in the Duke.
Yeah, Pipsqueak and the Duke, I think, are the ones here, if I remember right. So, but yeah. Anything else in there that?
I'm trying to think. I don't know if I like Long Feng. I'm still trying to figure that out. I don't know.
I think he serves his role. Like
he does. He's like a sub boss. Like
in terms of like what they wrote him for here. I mean, granted, you don't really get to see him like shine as like say somebody like Azula does, but he's essentially like this season's General
Zhao, yeah. No, I other than that, I thought it was a great season.
Yeah, no. I would say just for me, for least favorite parts, I am not the biggest fan of the Return to Omashu episode, kind of like what we discussed. I think there are some plot holes. Can we fix it?
No, we're good.
Okay. I think there are some, but no, I think the King of Omashu episode, for me, not the biggest fan. I think there are some plot holes in there or things that are not really well explained, and especially considering how Boomy is the king of this city. Yeah, legitimately does nothing for his people here. It takes Team Avatar to actually do something to like get the people out of the city and make it safe. But also I'm just not a big fan of like Boomy as a character in general here. But also, no crazy battle at the end of book 1 like we did.
Not at that scale. No.
Not that scale. And granted, they're saving it for like for book 3 essentially here, because we get like not like one big battle, but we get like at least 2 with like the black sun and then the actual finale and all that. But
overall it's great.
No, overall I like this season better than book 1. I will say it may be my favorite. I don't know. I'll have to kind of put that to the test with book
next
3.
time.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Thank you guys for listening so much. We greatly appreciate it. Make sure to check out our book 1 review if you haven't already. And we have a bunch of other videos dedicated to just talking about nerd stuff. So, and we're going to do coming up our next deep dive, or Thursday throwback, if you will, is going to be looking at book 3 of the Avatar Fire. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Make sure you subscribe. Hit that like button and leave a comment. You know.
And if you're unfamiliar with like our channel and like what we do here, we also do weekly nerd news shows here and talk about latest developments in just nerd culture, whether that's movies, video games, or TV. So if that's something you like our content here and you'd like to see more of that, come check us out.
Yeah, hit us up on the YouTube. We're on everywhere where podcasts are. Patreon.com/withnerds if you want to support the channel directly. But yeah, have an awesome week, and remember, everyone's a nerd about something.